Welcome back to the channel, everyone. On today's episode, I'm changing the brake pads and brake rotors on this 2006 Ford Fairmont BF Falcon. Before I take the wheels off and get started on the brakes, I just wanted to chat to you guys about this. So I found these rubber pads, and they sit on a safety stand under the car. So what it's enabled me to do is jack the car up from the jacking points, and then put this on top of the safety stand and just lower the car gently onto it. And what I've found so far is that it actually keeps the factory jacking points, it doesn't bend them at all, so it actually looks after them. So I'm not giving a product plug, but it's probably best bang for your buck I've actually found working on the car so far. So, but yeah, let's get started on the brakes and I'll get this wheel off. Okay, so what I need to do first, I've got to remove the caliper, and I've got these two bolts holding the caliper. So the bolt is a 12mm, and all I need to do to remove that is put my 12mm on here and get an 18mm spanner so I can hold this. But if you don't have an 18mm spanner and you wouldn't need to hold this part steady, you can just use a shifter and adjust it and it works just the same. So I'll get cracking and do that. And just like that, the caliper's off. What I'm going to do is get a hook, because you don't want to move the brake line too much, and you just want to try and keep this as steady as it comes. And I'm just hooking it around the coil spring. So let's have a look how bad these brakes actually are. I don't know if you can see that on camera. I don't know if you can see this on camera, but there's pretty much nothing left, and you could hear grinding sounds coming from this front wheel. Anyway, so time to change them. So that's one. And this one's probably even worse. You can see there's nothing there. Anyway, we've got new ones, we'll put them in. This car will be back on the road again. So these are rubbish. Okay, the next thing I need to do is remove this caliper mounting bracket. And all it is there's two bolts here. They're 15mm. But what you might need to do is remove this little grommet that holds the brake line in. And all I did with that is just put a screwdriver behind it and just gently pry it out. Just gently pry it out like that. And then it came out, and then it should just clip back in when I finish. But you need to do that because you won't be able to get access to this bolt. There's a bit of torque on these bolts, so I'm actually going to have to use my breaker bar just to loosen them up a little bit, because they are quite tight. There we go. And once that is done, let's get my ratchet out. And everything just comes off in your head. Okay, so I've got the caliper mounting bracket in my hands, and I've noticed with these brakes, they're actually wearing differently on both sides. So while I've got it out and I'm changing the rotor, I've decided that I'm also going to take out these sliding pins here. I don't know if you can see them, just bring them up to the camera. So those sliding pins, I want to take the rubber boots off here, take everything out, clean it, and put some fresh grease back inside to hopefully, fingers crossed, it helps with the brakes going forward. So I'll just start pulling them apart. So I've had an opportunity now to look at the caliper mounting bracket. You can see that I've checked the grease that was in these sliding pins, and it looked quite dry inside. So I've taken out, give it a good clean up with the rag, use a small screwdriver to get that rag down as far as I could go to clean it out, put fresh grease on it. I'm not going to worry about cleaning it with brake clean. It's just going to get dirty again anyway with the dust. And now it's good to go again. So I'm ready to put all the parts back together now. So the last thing I did, so you saw me clean the bracket for the caliper. What I've done there was a bit of rust sitting on this hub surface here. So all I did was get a drill, a wire brush, and cleaned as much of it as I could, and it's looking all right at the moment. So next step is I've got my old rotor, which I'm probably going to disregard this one, get my new rotor. Now, the thing I like about this DBA rotor is it's not oily. They actually paint the surface of it. So you don't actually have to wipe it down unless I get too much grease on it, which I'll try and avoid. And all I want to do is make sure that my old rotor, I know these are the correct parts because I double checked them and triple checked them before I ordered them, but I just want to make sure that everything is the same size and everything fits. Perfect. So they're the same size. Now, if I really wanted to, I could have taken these and got a machine, but I think in Sydney, probably looking around $50 to $100, anywhere in between. And you know, I picked these ones up relatively cheap, and they're a good brand anyway. So it's not a brand endorsement. It's just my preference of using DBA rotors. So I'm just going to put these to the side, maybe for another day if they get machined, because I don't know if you can see on camera, but there is a bit of a lip on them, but maybe the bit of machining, you know, they might be good to use again. Let me put that down to the side. Everything's ready to go back on now. Just one thing before you do it, pop your bonnet and then go to the brake fluid reservoir, take off the cap. And the reason you would do this is when you're pushing the pistons back in, you just want to keep an eye on the fluid level. I'm not going to change the fluid this time around because we did it probably 6 months ago. So let's get started and let's do it. Okay, so what I need to do now is these two bolts need to be torqued up according to my manual, 115 Newton meters. So I've got my torque wrench, so I'll get that cracking. The two bolts that are holding the caliper on are now torqued up to spec. Now it's more or less just putting the brake pads on. Now before you put your brake pads back on, just put the pads side by side. Just make sure they're exactly the same. Again, you just triple check your part numbers when you're ordering, but these are 100% the same. And again, this is not a brand plug, but I like how Bendix are including these anti-squeal pads, things on the back of on the brake caliper, on the brake pad, sorry. So again, just put it in like that. Should go in quite easily. And this side again, just put it in and should go in easy. There we go. Just put this in place. Okay. So we've got the brake pads on. Next thing we need to do is grab our caliper that should be sitting on our hook. Now you've got two options here. So you don't need the right tool to push the brake pads. Some people like to do it by hand. What I like to do is get a brake pad. That's one of the things that you can do. And then you can just get a clamp. If I can just operate this with one hand. Yeah, if you don't have the right tools, you get your brake pad, put it in there, and you put your clamp in like that, and then you just start screwing back, just making sure it's on that flat surface. That's what I like to do, but you might have a different way you'd like to approach that. I've been lucky enough though to get this pad separator. So let me just put it back on my pad here. Put my hook in so I can get set up. Turn this around. Still going to put a pad in. Put my pad in, get my tool, put it in there and just start pulling the trigger. And you should notice the piston should start going in, and what I'm doing at the same time, I'm just keeping an eye on the fluid level. To make sure it doesn't overfill. So all I need to do now is put the calipers back onto the bracket. Hold it down, hold it, and just touch it like that. So not too tight. Again with the bottom one. Just snip it up, that's it. It doesn't need any more than that. And that's one. And that's how you change the rotor. And that's just one. So what I'm going to do now is go to the other side. I'm going to have to clean all this before I put everything back together again. I'll take this off, put the wheel on. We can get this car back on the road. I finished both sides. I've changed rotors and pads on both sides. I'm probably a little bit concerned about the pad wear on the left hand side. It was a lot lower, more or less ground down to zero, as you saw. I showed you. The right hand side was actually quite good, so surprising. So I've got to keep my eye out and see what happens there. Just before I put everything away, I've put the lid on the brake reservoir. I've cleaned the rotors, so all that's left for me to do now is put the wheels back on, pump the brakes, wait till I get a pedal and take it for a drive. I've just taken the car for a drive around the block. Brakes are coming on strong again, no issues. As I said, I want to keep my eye open on what's going on due to this being a right hand side brake, as you can see, and this is the left hand side. So I really want to find out what's going on, but every service I'm just going to have to keep my eyes open on it and see exactly what we do as a result. Look, it might mean rebuilding calipers. I don't know what it could be at this stage, but the car has done 220,000 Ks. If you like the video, hit that like button. And if you want to see more content from Modaufy Garage, hit that subscribe button and I'll see you on the next video.